Ed Owen. Background. Wilfred Owen (1893–1918) was a British poet and soldier, best known for his poignant and realistic war poetry. Born in Shropshire, England, Owen was deeply influenced by his experiences as a soldier during World War I. He enlisted in the army in 1915 and was sent to the Western Front, where he witnessed the horrors of trench warfare. His first-hand exposure to the brutality and futility of war had a profound impact on his perspective and shaped his poetic voice. Poetic style and contribution. Owen's poetry is characterized by its raw realism, vivid imagery, and intense emotional impact. He rejected the conventional glorification of war, opting instead to convey the stark realities faced by soldiers on the front lines. He was associated with the War Poets, a group of writers who responded to the horrors of World War I through their works. Owen's poems stand out for their anti-war sentiment and their exploration of the psychological and physical effects of combat. His use of powerful and graphic imagery, coupled with his mastery of poetic form, distinguishes his work. Owen's poems often utilize irony and satire to critique the romanticized ideals of war and expose the harsh truths hidden beneath patriotic rhetoric. Disabled. Themes and critical examination. Anti-war message. Critical perspective. Disabled is a quintessential anti-war poem that exposes the disillusionment and human cost of conflict. Owen's critique of the false glory associated with war is evident as he dismantles romanticized notions, revealing the shattered dreams and despair of a disabled soldier. Loss and isolation. Critical perspective. The theme of loss, both physical and emotional, is central. Owen's portrayal of the soldier's isolation after returning home underscores the profound impact of war on individuals, challenging the glorified image of heroism. Societal indifference. Critical perspective. Owen sharply critiques societal indifference toward disabled veterans. The lack of a hero's welcome and the soldier's neglected state highlight the poem's social commentary, prompting readers to reflect on the collective responsibility toward those who sacrificed for their country. Symbolism and irony. Critical perspective. Owen skillfully employs symbolism, such as the wheelchair and the blood smear, to convey deeper meanings. The use of irony, particularly in the soldier's initial motivations for joining the war, adds layers of complexity, exposing the contradictions inherent in the glorification of conflict. Time and memory. Critical perspective. The shifting temporal settings reflect Owen's exploration of time and memory. The soldier's reflections on the past and uncertain future contribute to the poem's depth, emphasizing the enduring impact of war on an individual's perception of time. Human cost of war. Critical perspective. Owen's focus on the human toll of war distinguishes Disabled. The graphic imagery and emotional intensity serve as a stark reminder of the physical and psychological trauma endured by soldiers, challenging the sanitized narrative often associated with wartime heroism. In summary, Wilfred Owen's Disabled stands as a powerful anti-war poem that transcends its historical context, offering a timeless critique of the devastating effects of war on individuals and society. Owen's unique poetic style, influenced by his experiences on the front lines, contributes to the enduring impact of his work in the realm of war literature. Disabled is a poem by Wilfred Owen, a renowned English poet who served as a soldier during World War I. The poem explores the profound impact of war on an individual's life, focusing on a young soldier who has been disabled and is now dealing with the physical and emotional consequences of his injuries. Here is the text of the poem. VB Net. Copy code. He sat in a wheeled chair, waiting for dark, and shivered in his ghastly suit of gray. Legless, sewn short at elbow. Through the park. Voices of boys rang saddening like a hymn. Voices of play and pleasure after day. Till gathering sleep had mothered them from him. About this time town used to swing so gay. When glow lamps budded in the light blue trees. And girls glanced lovelier as the air grew dim. In the old times, before he threw away his knees. No, will never feel again how slim girls' waists are, or how warm their subtle hands. All of them touch him like some queer disease. There was an artist silly for his face. For it was younger than his youth, last year. Now, he is old, his back will never brace. He's lost his color very far from here. Poured it down shell holes till the veins ran dry. And half his lifetime lapsed in the hot race. And leap of purple spurted from his thigh. One time he liked a blood smear down his leg. After the matches carried shoulder high. It was after football, when he'd drunk a peg. He thought he'd better join, he wonders why. Someone had said he'd look a god in kilts. That's why, And maybe, too, to please his Meg. Aye, that was it, to please the giddy jilts. He asked to join, he didn't have to beg. Smiling, they wrote his lie, aged 19 years. Germans he scarcely thought of, all their guilt. And Austria's, did not move him. And no fears. Of fear came yet, he thought of jeweled hilts. For daggers in plaid socks, of smart salutes. And care of arms, and leave, and pay arrears. Esprit de corps, and hints for young recruits. And soon, he was drafted out with drums and cheers. Some cheered him home, but not as crowds cheer goal. Only a solemn man woe-browed him fruits. Thanked him, and then inquired about his soul. Now, he will spend a few sick years in institutes. And do what things the rules consider wise. And take whatever pity they may dole. Tonight he noticed how the women's eyes passed from him to the strong men that were whole. How cold and late it is. Why don't they come? And put him into bed. Why don't they come? The poem vividly portrays the physical and psychological scars of war, emphasizing the loss of youth, vitality, and the impact on personal relationships. It critiques the glorification of war and its effects on those who actually experience it. Wilfred Owen's war poetry is celebrated for its raw, honest portrayal of the harsh realities of World War I. Disabled, by Wilfred Owen is a poignant poem that depicts the devastating effects of war on an individual. The poem tells the story of a young soldier who is now disabled, having lost his legs and facing the physical and emotional consequences of his injuries. The soldier reflects on how, before the war, he was enthusiastic and joined the military to impress others, but the reality of war has left him physically maimed and emotionally detached. The poem highlights the contrast between the soldier's past and present, emphasizing the loss of youth, the impact on personal relationships, and the societal indifference towards veterans. The concluding lines express the soldier's loneliness and the cold reality of his situation as he waits for someone to come and help him. Overall, Disabled is a powerful anti-war poem that exposes the human cost and disillusionment resulting from armed conflict. Let's go stanza by stanza to delve deeper into the meaning of each part of Disabled by Wilfred Owen. Stanza 1. CSS. Copy code. He sat in a wheeled chair, waiting for dark, and shivered in his ghastly suit of gray. Legless, sewn short at elbow. Through the park, voices of boys rang saddening like a hymn. Voices of play and pleasure after day, till gathering sleep had mothered them from him. In this stanza, we are introduced to a disabled soldier sitting in a wheelchair, waiting for nightfall. He's described as shivering in a gray uniform, and his physical condition is highlighted, having lost his legs and having his sleeves sewn short. The mention of voices of boys playing in the park creates a poignant contrast with the soldier's current state, emphasizing the loss of his ability to participate in such simple joys. The soldier's isolation is further underscored as sleep separates him from the carefree voices of the boys. Stanza 2. VB Net. Copy code. About this time town used to swing so gay, when glow lamps budded in the light blue trees, and girls glanced lovelier as the air grew dim. In the old times, before he threw away his knees. Noah will never feel again how slim girls' waists are, or how warm their subtle hands. All of them touch him like some queer disease. This stanza reflects on how life used to be vibrant and joyous in town, with the imagery of glow lamps and the beauty of girls. However, the soldier's decision to join the war is described as him having thrown away his knees, emphasizing the irreparable loss. The soldier is now unable to experience the physical and emotional intimacy with others, and the comparison of human touch to a queer disease suggests the alienation he feels from society. Stanza 3. Mathematica. Copy code. There was an artist silly for his face, for it was younger than his youth, last year. Now, he is old, his back will never brace. He's lost his color very far from here. Poured it down shell holes till the veins ran dry. And half his lifetime lapsed in the hot race. And leap of purple spurted from his thigh. In this stanza, the focus shifts to an artist who was fascinated by the soldier's youthful face. The soldier's aging is accelerated due to the war, he has lost the ability to stand tall, his back will never brace, and the vivid imagery of his blood pouring into shell holes signifies the loss of life and vitality. The leap of purple may refer to a wound, and it vividly conveys the violence and brutality of war. Stanza 4. VB Net. Copy code. One time he liked a blood smear down his leg, after the match is carried shoulder high. It was after football, when he'd drunk a peg. He thought he'd better join, he wonders why. Someone had said he'd look a god in kilts. That's why, and maybe, too, to please his Meg. Aye, that was it, to please the giddy jilts. He asked to join, he didn't have to beg. Smiling, they wrote his lie, aged 19 years. This stanza explores the soldier's motivations for joining the war. He reminisces about the excitement of a blood smear after a football match and the influence of someone's suggestion that he would look heroic in kilts. The mention of Meg and the desire to please giddy jilts, playful or flirtatious girls indicates the influence of societal expectations and peer pressure. The soldier's decision is based on youthful naivety and a desire for admiration. The lie about his age reflects the eagerness of young men to participate in the war. Stanza 5. Mathematica. Copy code. Germans he scarcely thought of, all their guilt. And Austria's, did not move him. And no fears of fear came yet, he thought of jeweled hilts. For daggers in plaid socks, of smart salutes. And care of arms, and leave, and pay arrears. Esprit de corps, and hints for young recruits. And soon, he was drafted out with drums and cheers. This stanza delves into the soldier's initial lack of consideration for the enemy or the consequences of war. His thoughts are consumed by romanticized notions of military life, jeweled hilts, smart salutes, and the camaraderie of esprit de corps. The mention of drums and cheers as he is drafted out underscores the romanticized and almost celebratory atmosphere surrounding recruitment. Stanza 6. VB net. Copy code. Some cheered him home, but not as crowds cheer goal. Only a solemn man woe-browed him fruits. Thanked him, and then inquired about his soul. Now, he will spend a few sick years in institutes. And do what things the rules consider wise. And take whatever pity they may dole. Tonight he noticed how the women's eyes passed from him to the strong men that were whole. How cold and late it is. Why don't they come? And put him into bed. Why don't they come? In the final stanza, the soldier returns home to minimal acknowledgement. There is no triumphant reception like that given to a sports hero goal. Instead, a solemn man brings him fruits and inquires about his soul, suggesting a deeper concern for the soldier's well-being. The soldier is condemned to spend years in institutions, adhering to societal rules and receiving whatever pity is offered. The observation of women's eyes passing from him to healthy men highlights his newfound invisibility and the stark contrast between his current state and the idealized image of strength. The closing lines express his loneliness and the poignant question of why the help he needs is not forthcoming. Wilfred Owen's Disabled is a powerful anti-war poem that provides a poignant and critical perspective on the human cost of conflict, emphasizing the physical and emotional toll it takes on individuals. Disabled, by Wilfred Owen is a poignant and powerful anti-war poem that offers a critical examination of the devastating consequences of war on an individual's life. Here's a more critical analysis of the poem. Loss of innocence and youth. Owen vividly portrays the loss of innocence and youth through the central character, a young soldier who eagerly joined the war without fully understanding its implications. The mention of the soldier's past excitement, symbolized by a blood smear after a football match, contrasts sharply with his current state of disability, highlighting the irreversible impact of war on his life. Physical and emotional scars. The physical and emotional scars of war are depicted with graphic imagery. The soldier is not only physically disabled but emotionally detached and isolated from the society that once cheered him. The loss of limbs, the pouring of blood into shell holes, and the mention of a leap of purple from his thigh all contribute to a visceral portrayal of the human cost of war. False glory of war. Owen challenges the glorification of war by exposing the disparity between the romanticized expectations of military service and the harsh reality faced by soldiers. The soldier's initial motivations, influenced by superficial ideas of heroism and admiration, are shattered by the harsh realities of war. Societal indifference. The poem explores the theme of societal indifference towards disabled veterans. The lack of a triumphant reception upon the soldier's return and the subsequent loneliness and neglect he experiences highlight society's tendency to overlook the wounded and disabled. The contrast between the soldier's past popularity and his current isolation emphasizes the societal rejection faced by those who bear the visible marks of war. Critique of recruitment and propaganda. Owen critiques the recruitment process and propaganda that lured young men into war with false promises of glory and heroism. The lie about the soldier's age and the influence of societal expectations, as well as the romanticized notions of military life, underscore the manipulation of young minds by those who promote war. Existential despair. The soldier's existential despair is palpable as he contemplates his present and future. The questioning of why people don't come to put him to bed and the overall sense of abandonment reflect the profound emotional and psychological impact of war. The soldier's observation of women's eyes passing over him to healthy men adds a layer of existential isolation, highlighting the alienation of those who have been disabled by war. In conclusion, Disabled is a stark and critical portrayal of the physical, emotional, and societal costs of war. Through vivid imagery and poignant language, Owen invites readers to question the glorification of war and to recognize the human toll it exacts on individuals who, once young and full of life, are left disabled and forgotten by society. The poem serves as a powerful anti-war statement, urging readers to confront the harsh realities obscured by patriotic rhetoric. Disabled, by Wilfred Owen is a poignant and thought-provoking poem that merits critical appreciation for its profound exploration of the human cost of war. Here are key aspects to appreciate. Raw realism. Owen's vivid and realistic depiction of the physical and emotional consequences of war sets this poem apart. The graphic imagery, such as the soldier losing his legs and blood pouring into shell holes, creates a visceral experience for the reader, driving home the harsh realities faced by soldiers. Emotional impact. The poem is emotionally charged, evoking empathy and a deep sense of compassion for the disabled soldier. The juxtaposition of his past vitality with his present state of isolation and despair elicits a strong emotional response from readers, prompting reflection on the human cost of conflict. Anti-war message. Disabled is a powerful anti-war statement that critically examines the glorification of war and its impact on individuals. Owen challenges the notion of war as heroic and explores the disillusionment faced by those who believed in the romanticized ideals of military service. Symbolism and imagery. The use of symbols, such as the disabled soldier and his wheelchair, the blood smear, and the image of women passing over him, adds layers of meaning. These symbols enhance the poem's depth, providing readers with a rich tapestry to interpret and reflect upon. Irony and satire. Owen employs irony and satire to critique the false allure of war. The soldier's initial motivations, influenced by superficial ideals of heroism and glory, are revealed as misguided and tragic. The lie about his age and the discrepancy between his expectations and the reality of war underscore the poem's satirical elements. Societal critique. The poem offers a sharp critique of societal attitudes toward disabled veterans. The lack of a hero's welcome and the soldier's subsequent loneliness emphasize society's neglect of those who have sacrificed their well-being for the nation. This aspect encourages readers to reflect on societal responsibilities and values. Timeless relevance. Despite being written about World War I, Disabled remains relevant and universal in its portrayal of the human toll of war. The poem transcends its historical context, resonating with readers across different periods and cultures, prompting reflection on the ongoing impact of conflict on individuals and societies. Inquiry into human nature. The poem delves into fundamental aspects of human nature, such as the desire for recognition, societal expectations, and the consequences of blindly adhering to the call of duty. Owen's exploration of these themes adds a layer of philosophical depth to the poem. Disabled stands as a testament to Owen's ability to convey the complexities of war through poetry. Its lasting impact lies in its ability to provoke thought, challenge societal norms, and compel readers to confront the often overlooked human suffering that accompanies armed conflicts. Setting. The setting of Disabled is not explicitly specified in terms of a particular location or battlefield. Instead, the focus is on the personal experiences of the disabled soldier. The poem transitions between different temporal settings, including the soldier's pre-war life, his time in the war, and his post-war existence. The absence of a specific setting contributes to the universality of the poem, allowing readers to connect with the broader themes of war, loss, and societal indifference. Tone. The tone of Disabled is somber, reflective, and melancholic. It conveys a sense of regret, disillusionment, and deep sadness. While there are moments of introspection and nostalgia for the soldier's past, the overall tone is marked by the stark contrast between the expectations of war and the devastating reality faced by the disabled veteran. The tone reflects the poet's anti-war sentiment and serves as a poignant commentary on the human cost of conflict. Writing style. Wilfred Owen employs a powerful and evocative writing style in Disabled. Key features include imagery. Owen uses vivid and often graphic imagery to depict the physical and emotional toll of war. The images of the soldier's disability, the pouring of blood, and the contrast between past and present contribute to the poem's impact. Symbolism. The poem is rich in symbolism, with elements such as the wheelchair, the blood smear, and the women's gaze serving as potent symbols that deepen the meaning of the narrative. Irony and satire. Owen incorporates irony and satire to critique the romanticized notions of war. The soldier's initial motivations and the discrepancy between his expectations and the harsh reality add layers of complexity to the poem. Emotional appeal. The poem evokes a strong emotional response through its exploration of human suffering, loss, and the shattered dreams of the disabled soldier. The emotional appeal adds depth to the anti-war message. Genre. Disabled falls within the genre of war poetry and anti-war literature. It aligns with the tradition of poets who sought to convey the harsh realities of warfare, rejecting glorification in favor of a more critical examination of the human experience during and after war. The poem can also be categorized within the broader genre of modernist poetry, characterized by its innovative language, focus on individual experience, and a departure from traditional forms and themes. Disabled, by Wilfred Owen explores several themes, and here are some of the key themes with examples from the poem. War and its consequences. Example: the entire poem revolves around the consequences of war on an individual. The disabled soldier's physical injuries, emotional trauma, and the profound impact on his life serve as powerful examples of the devastating aftermath of war. Loss and isolation. Example: the soldier's loss of limbs, youth, and the subsequent isolation he experiences upon returning home highlight the theme of loss and the profound sense of loneliness that accompanies disability. False glory of war. Example: the soldier's initial motivations for joining the war, driven by notions of glory, heroism, and societal expectations, represent the theme of the false allure of war. The poem exposes the disparity between the romanticized ideals of military service and its harsh reality. Societal indifference. Example: the lack of a hero's welcome for the disabled soldier and the subsequent neglect he faces from society underscore the theme of societal indifference toward the plight of disabled veterans. The poem prompts reflection on the societal responsibility to those who have sacrificed for their country. Youth and innocence. Example: the contrast between the soldier's vibrant, youthful past and his current state of disability serves as an example of the theme of the loss of youth and innocence due to the traumatic experiences of war. Pity and compassion. Example: the mention of a solemn man who brings the soldier fruits and inquires about his soul exemplifies the theme of pity and compassion. It shows a glimmer of humanity amidst the societal indifference, emphasizing the importance of acknowledging and caring for the wounded. Irony and satire. Example: the soldier's recollection of joining the war for reasons like looking like a god in kilts or to please his sweetheart represents the theme of irony and satire. The discrepancy between his initial expectations and the harsh reality of war highlights the folly of romanticized notions surrounding military service. Time and memory. Example: the poem's structure, which shifts between different temporal settings, reflects the theme of time and memory. The soldier reflects on his past, the present, and an uncertain future, emphasizing the enduring impact of war on one's perception of time. Despair and existentialism. Example: the soldier's existential despair and the concluding lines questioning why help doesn't come contribute to the theme of despair and existential questioning. It prompts readers to consider the meaning of life in the face of profound suffering. These themes collectively contribute to the anti-war message of the poem, inviting readers to critically examine the human cost of armed conflict.